Welcome to Cochise County TV.
Hello and welcome to the inaugural episode of Cochise County TV. Each week we'll be bringing the county exciting programming about your culture, history, lifestyle, and more.
I'm Gary Dillard, a Cochise County native, longtime journalist, and regional historian.
I'm Margaret Dillard, 25-year resident and longtime video and television producer.
Cochise County TV will be reaching much of the county through cable TV systems in Sierra Vista, Fort Huachuca, Hereford, Benson, Bisbee, St. David, and more.
It will reach the rest of the county and the rest of the country through online streaming.
And we're working with other cable providers to get into other Cochise County homes.
By the way, the show will be reaching into more than half of Tucson as well. If you can't remember all the details we're giving you today, just visit our website at cochisecounty.tv to learn more. You'll be seeing that address on the screen many times during the next half hour.
Today's show will feature cowboy shooting, recycling in Sierra Vista, rock for rehab, and a calendar of upcoming events around the county.
But to get started, let's take a look at how Cochise County got its name, just after these words from our sponsors.
Well, welcome to Cochise County. I'm a native of Cochise County. I'm a journalist by training, and I got involved in the study of history about 1980, which seems a long time ago now, and have been trying to learn as much as I can over the years about what's going on in Cochise County, what happened here historically, and it's an exciting place. Cochise County is widely diverse. There's a lot to do and see here. Carlos Schwantes, an eminent historian of the West, has visited every county in the western United States and has listed the various attributes of these counties and says that Cochise County has more attributes that tie into the Old West than any other single county in America. So we're talking about things like the Indian Wars, the Apaches, railroading, stagecoaches, cattle drives, cattle ranches, gunfights, famous outlaws, silver mining, gold mining, copper mining, all of the things that make the mythological West or the Old West what it is. Now, the beginning of Cochise County history begins with a fellow by the name of Cochise. When this part of Pima County, which is Tucson, was carved out to make its own county back in 1881, a bunch of the good old boys sat around and said, what are we going to call this county? And so the name they chose harkened back to the Apache Indian chief by the name of Cochise. They said that this county is going to be tough to settle, tough to tame, tough to live with. And who would better represent that than a man like Cochise? So the first thing to look at, I suppose, is Cochise himself. Now, Cochise came to fame in 1861. He was a very peaceful type who actually got a contract as a wood gatherer over in Apache Pass, which is south of Wilcox, about 60 miles to the east of here. And it's very close to today's Fort Bowie, which is a national monument. And he was getting along just fine. The Apaches took turns at being peaceful and going into what their natural course of events was, which was essentially raiding and retribution. Generally, what they did with raiding was to raid other Indian tribes, maybe even some other Apache tribes, but certainly the sedentary Indians like the Pimas or others that lived in this area, and take just enough for them to survive off of, but leaving enough for the other tribes to keep going so that they could grow a new crop for the Apaches for the next year. But they also got into this mode of, when they lost children to warfare of whatever kind, they would often adopt other people's kids. They would steal them from them and raise them as Apaches so that they would continue the population. And so there was an instance in 1861 where a young boy over in the Sonoyta area near Nogales was captured along with a bunch of livestock. And Cochise was blamed for this. And a headstrong military man from a fort near there decided that it was Cochise, and he came out to Fort Bowie. He invited Cochise in for a friendly cup of coffee into his tent that he had set up there. And Cochise came down with quite a few family members, went into the tent, and found out he was being arrested for a crime that he knew he didn't commit, but he couldn't persuade the military that he didn't commit. Well, Cochise was an athlete if he was anything, and even though the tent was surrounded by armed soldiers ready to deal with whatever threat the Apaches might pose, Cochise quickly pulled a knife out of his boot, cut through the back of the tent, and ran up the hill with the soldiers shooting at him. When he got to the top of the hill, it was noted that he still had his coffee cup in his hand. We don't know if it was still filled with coffee or if he spilled some on the way. But then he left the area, and a decade of warfare ensued, based out of the Fort Bowie area. General Oliver Otis Howard, was a Civil War hero, and he was appointed to head the Freedmen's Bureau after the Civil War. His goal was to take the freed slaves and turn them into good citizens by educating them, by lobbying for their causes, finding out what they needed, making sure they had land and tools, etc. And he got a very good reputation for this kind of work. So he was assigned by the president to come east in 1871 and try and do a peace treaty with Cochise. And he was successful in doing that. He found a former scout by the name of Tom Jeffords who knew Cochise. If you remember the book Blood Brother or the movie Broken Arrow, you'll remember that he and Cochise actually became blood brothers by slicing open their palms and shaking hands. They mixed their blood and became blood brothers. So that led to peace again in Apacheria, for a little while at least. Now, if you want to learn about this and see where it took place, Fort Bowie is south of Wilcox, and it's one of the least visited national monuments in the country. And one of the reasons is you got to walk about a mile to get to it from the parking lot. However, you can call ahead if you have a reason to. They can open up the gate and let you drive in. And it's a great place to see a lot of southwestern history from the point of view of both the Apache Wars and the Civil War, which would have a role there as well. Also, while you're in Wilcox, there is a museum called the Chiricahua Apache Museum, which you can visit and learn more about the Apaches while you're there.